The Dolphins are the last place team in the AFC East. Kevin Donlan's here to talk the AFC East and the NFC East. Let's go.
You're listening to the Running Up the Score podcast. Now here's your host, Jerry Napoleonello.
All right, Running Up the Score. I'm Jerry Napoleonello, and Kevin Donlan is back for a good episode. We have the AFC East, the NFC East to get into. First, we'll talk about some takeaways from the first 2 weeks so far in the preseason. We got some hobby talk to talk about later on. Kevin's going to give his top 10 for quarterbacks. I already gave mine, so I want to hear what Kevin's got, but let's start this show off right. How you been?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah?
Just
it's been a while.
I know, it has been a while.
It's been a while.
It really has.
So I'm excited. Let's get right into it. You might as well give your top 10 because let's start the show off right. Mm-hmm. We'll start it off with the most controversial segment in all of sports talk, basically. Mm-hmm. So give your top 10. Start with 10.
Well, number 10, I'll give to Aaron Rodgers at this point, obviously, because of the age and everything else. And, I think the mindset with, everyone with him coming to the Jets is this guy going to be a difference maker, which, of course, he can be, but I don't think the big numbers are coming. I think the Jets, especially with the signing of these running backs, I think they're really just looking for that run and play defense type of ordeal on their offense. And Rodgers obviously beyond a game manager, and I think really for the Jets it comes down to having somebody for the last 2 minutes of each half. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be at number 10 just because of the age situation. It's really what it goes beyond for me. Rounding down to number 9, I think I got Dak Prescott there. I think a lot of people have forgotten that he's a very capable player. I'll say the same thing for him. Like I've always said, this man needs to use his legs if he is going to maximize what he can do, because there's a lot he could do. Passing the ball, we've already seen it, but he's got to be able to run the football and run it effectively and have defenses unbalanced, because you've seen the effect it has on a lot of people. And obviously, he has just done a great job of being able to manage that. But on times where he finds himself sitting in the pocket too long, these are just games that just wind up dragging. I mean, you would see it. You understand what's coming from there. So you run the football. I got this kid in my top 10, obviously Dallas, and you got a good team surrounding him, a lot of weapons, so this success should be there. Number 8, I'm probably going to go with Trevor Lawrence there. Obviously, he showed a lot last year. I want to see more, so this is almost like a demanding ranking for him right now. It's a concept of just basically telling you this is the year that this is really it. There's really no excuse beyond this point. Jacksonville, the coaching situation he had going on there in the early part of his career, understanding, bounced back a lot last year. Third year, he needs to make that leap. And we'll see. I mean, obviously, it really comes down to it. That's why he's getting number 8 on my list instead of top 5. A lot of people have him as like a top 5 talent, but he's got to show me first. I haven't seen it at all. Lamar Jackson rounds number 7 for me. Great player. Uses his legs like we talked about, what Dak needs to do. And he's able to pass the ball real well. So he actually surprised me with how well he was able to throw the ball. Obviously, last year he was hurt. A lot of people forget real quick. Guy's healthy, got paid. We're going to see a really good Lamar Jackson this year.
Added weapons, too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that really all does play a factor. Yeah. At number 6, I'm probably going to go with Justin Herbert here. This is like between 6 and 5. I'm, contemplating between. 5, so. I was going to say you're contemplating between Burrow and Herbert for me in this area at the 5-6 mark. I think you can really swap them either way. I think they're very similar kind of players. Both men need to stay healthy. And then just, you'll see really these two young talents it's really, they both have weapons around them. It should be a very interesting season for the both of them. I think 5-6 is a perfect fit for them. 4, I'm actually going Jalen Hurts. I said that I didn't like Jalen Hurts for the longest time.
I mean, we have plenty of clips of that.
Yeah, 100%. I actually don't even know if this. I think this might be a little too high for him. I probably put those other two up a step in front. Yeah. But Jalen Hurts proved a lot last year. He was able to make it happen. He's got a lot of weapons there. He's got one of the best offensive lines. He's got to make these throws. He made a lot of them last year, but I really wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make the throws this year. Yeah. I really wouldn't. It's a concept of just I watched how he played early on. He's definitely learned. Last year he was a lot better, used his legs, had defenses unbalanced, and that's what you need to do in order to be successful. Everybody can get all this film on you and be able to figure you out real quick.
Yeah.
But in Jalen Hurts, he just continues to put defenses, in an uncomfortable situation, and therefore that's why he's got success, and you really can't hate on that aspect. But in the concept of making throws, I mean, we're not talking about the top 10 most talented. We're talking the best, which is a different conversation. The most talented, obviously, you know what I mean? I would have Aaron Rodgers a lot earlier on this list.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So it's not really like a talent. I'm just saying from what is needed from the team and how effective he can be. I think Jalen Hurts goes a long way with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if you put the backup in as opposed to Jalen Hurts, it'd be a big difference. Mm-hmm. So on that concept alone and how important he is. But can he make every throw this year? We'll find out. But I wouldn't trust him personally as a fan of the Eagles if I were to be one. Yeah. But, he is he's very important for his team. He played really well last year. There's really no reason why he can't put him in a top 5 category, especially with how important he's going to be for his team. So after that, obviously, you got, Josh Allen, Mahomes. These two are just the two of the most
So we have the same
biggest monsters.
1 and 2.
Yeah, you got to have the same.
Yeah,
well, Patrick Mahomes is definitely the clear-cut number 1. Josh Allen has shown me that he could be the clear-cut number 2. But, when it comes to, talent, I mean, guys like Josh Allen and even Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, they, talent-wise, I'd have them all outside my top 5, some of them possibly out of my top 10.
Really?
Yeah, in a talent standpoint, being able to throw the ball, make the difficult throws. I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts could put the ball wherever he wants.
No, that
I'm not sure that Josh Allen could put the ball wherever he wants. I mean, these guys use their running game to make the defenses unbalanced and therefore much more difficult to defend. And they've done a great job, the two of them. I can't hate on either one of them and what they've done. It's part of their talent.
Yeah.
But when it comes to putting a throw wherever they need to, I'm not trusting any of the names I just mentioned.
Honestly,
right there.
to be totally honest with you, if we're talking about, talent wise and just throwing the ball, I mean, you could put Justin Herbert in the top 2. That's how good of a thrower that Justin Herbert is.
Yeah, of course. Burrow and Herbert, there's no doubting the actual pocket
presence,
talent,
the pocket talent
in the pocket, the talent in the pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about guys like Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, these guys are making throws outside the pocket, on the run. I mean, they create and they do a great job at, but I don't know if you throw a football that way.
Yeah.
If you're going to make it the most accurate throw, and you're not going to be able to put the ball wherever you can. And, in situations like that, the slightest mistake will lead to turnovers. And we'll see what happens with these guys this year. I mean, they got talented rosters around them. There's no doubt Josh Allen has a talented roster. There's no doubt that Jalen Hurts has a talented roster. And Trevor Lawrence has a much talented roster again.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens out of it. But, and these guys are top 10 quarterbacks in the league and very comfortable quarterbacks to have. But in regards to talent and putting the ball wherever they need to, I still question it. But their running game will make up for that, and it'll keep defenses unbalanced, create open receivers, open running backs, everything. A lot of things open up when you have a running back, a quarterback that can run the football.
My issue with Jalen Hurts, obviously a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, this is biased because you're a Cowboys fan. Well, it's not really even that fact. It's just the fact of look at what Jalen Hurts was the year prior to last year. And that's when you're like, well, what happened? All right. And I think, honestly, last year, the addition of Brown, that helped. Obviously, it helped huge. But I think also the fact that the year prior, he wasn't a great passer. And the fact that I honestly think last year, it was more of the defenses playing the run more than they were actually playing the pass. So I think he got a lot of single coverage, man-to-man coverage on his outside, and I think that's where it helped out. And I think it made him look better than he actually is. And that's why where you were saying, you're a little uneasy putting Jalen Hurts in the top 5, and that I think is the reason why you are a little uneasy putting him in the top 5, and that was my issue with putting him. I mean, the fact that I even have him on the top 10 is something. So I have him at 10. So yeah, they're like, we had some different, like I had Aaron Rodgers 4, you had him at 10.
It's a very difficult question to try to analyze because
exactly.
when you say the top 10 best quarterbacks, you could say talent-wise, but talent-wise will not, you need everything else around you.
Yeah.
It really is very important. I mean, this is a game of football. As much as we like to talk about the quarterback, it's important, but at the same time, you need everything else going in the place, and
defense.
You need to have an offense that's well structured, and it's going to be able to get success right away.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about Aaron Rodgers coming into a new offense. I mean, not really a new offense, but new players, new surroundings, everything. You take that all into play. Aaron Rodgers is a very talented quarterback. There's no doubt about it. I'm a Jet fan. I'm excited to watch him. I can't wait, but I'm not expecting a lot. I'm not expecting anything really outside the last 2 minutes of each half from him. I expect the New York Jets to use Breece Hall, to use Dalvin Cook, and to be able to establish the running game, create 3rd down and 2s, and make the game easy for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who can make the quick throws on the out routes and get the 2 to 3 yards you need, and just keep the ball moving. Keep that defense that you have on the other side of the field and keep their defense on. Football comes into so many different, variables in the game. Everyone could depict a good defense, good offense. Oh, well, they're giving up this many points a game. But, that offense could be creating not so friendly situations for their defense, and therefore leading to more points being scored against them no matter how talented you are. So a lot of numbers that you see, even on ESPN and all these other networks, they could be misleading at times.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. Like when you're talking about stats, it could be misleading.
100%. Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to throw for 4,000 yards this year for the Jets to be successful. Jalen Hurts doesn't need to throw for 4,000 yards this year for the Eagles to be successful.
He didn't do it last year.
Being able to manage the offense, that's probably where I see the best kind of a quarterback. Now, I've seen Mahomes handle the offense real well. Josh Allen handles the offense real well. A lot of my top 5 quarterbacks all manage offenses very, very well. I mean, Justin Herbert, I didn't think did so well last year, but I think it had a lot to do with him being hurt.
I think with Justin Herbert, I think a lot had to do with coaching too.
Yeah, coaching, but honestly, you break a rib, man. It is not. It is not pleasant to turn your body and make a throw. There's a lot that goes into that. So, but I think when it comes to overall running the offense, I think Herbert had a really, considering he was hurt, he found a way to continue to move the ball for them. Joe Burrow, the same boat. Just finding a way to move your offense.
Yeah.
By any means necessary. And Jalen Hurts does that. Jalen Hurts does that, and that's why he's in the top 5. He does a great job of being able to get first down. I mean, honestly, dude, nobody. I've never seen anything like it except Tom Brady. The 4th down and 1. Yeah. With the 4th down and 1.
I know.
I know.
Speaking of quarterbacks, let's just get into some of the rookie quarterbacks so far in the preseason. I mean, when you're looking at, the rookie quarterbacks, obviously you're going to go straight to Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, those kind of guys, Will Levis. But it's really not those guys that you're kind of looking at. Like, you're looking at Aiden O'Connell after the first week of preseason. You're looking at Aiden O'Connell with the Raiders, which he has probably a better chance of being like outside of the top 3 picks at quarterback. He has the chance to actually maybe see some time, because the Raiders, it's going to be a rough year. Yeah. It's going to be a really rough year. And at quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, is he the guy? I mean,
I'll be honest with you. This is where there's always misconceptions. Like, you think the Raiders aren't going to be a great team. I personally think the Raiders are actually going to be a very, very good team that competes in that division, just on the basis that they have an established offensive line with a good anchor to it. You have a great defensive end. I mean, a great one. One of the ones that you just can't, you have to practice against. Like, you have to be prepped to play a guy that. He really is a difference maker on their defensive side of the football. And Garoppolo is definitely not the best scenario. But again, like I say, the formula to good success in the NFL, I mean, you got to establish the running game. I know there's going to be no Josh Jacobs, but it's always the next man up. So whoever that might be, You have a great offensive line in front of you. You have a great establishment. The trenches are going to be wins for the Raiders. So, therefore, they really will not be a pushover.
It just sucks because of the division that they play in.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of really good, talented teams in there. I think Denver's going to make upgrades and be a better team this year. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs speak for themselves, and then obviously the Chargers round it out. So, it's a very tough division. But the Raiders will be competing. There's no doubt about it. They might not get a lot of wins, but I see them actually going over their win total, especially if it's going to be as low as Vegas is going to put it. But the Raiders, they're definitely well designed. And if this dude Aiden O'Connell comes in right away and does a spark, it sparks a whole team. So I think the Raiders will not be as bad as everyone thinks. The dumpster fire in the NFL that I think is slowly occurring is going to be the Indianapolis Colts, which I never thought I would say those words ever. I thought the Colts have always been well run. Yeah. They drafted well over the years. They've had great quarterbacks over the years. And and I'm not saying anything against Anthony Richardson. I think he could be a great talent, but they seem like a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah.
I want to see how good their defense can be. It'll be hard for them to compete in that division. I think that division is Jacksonville for the taking, but there are a couple low-key teams in there. I don't know what to expect out of these rookie quarterbacks just yet. I don't know what to expect out of Anthony Richardson. I don't know what to expect out of C.J. Stroud. Everyone's pointing the finger at Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars moving on and winning this division, and I think it has a lot to do with not really the offensive side of the ball on any of these teams, but I think that defensive end or that end that Jacksonville has, he's a difference maker as well. Yeah. And again, on the defensive side, I'm really not naming that player for the Colts. I'm not naming that player for the Houston Texans, and that's the problem right there. You got to have those names that make differences on the defensive side of the football. Those key sacks on third down, they're everything in football. Well, everything.
I think with the Texans, they're hoping that Will Anderson ends up being that.
Well,
guy,
I've heard good things right off the bat about him, but obviously rookie year. I mean, so I think the Texans can make. I mean, I just think that the Colts might even sit at the bottom of this. Everyone's talking about the Texans being a great, even like a great fantasy matchup and just stuff like that. I think the Texans can turn some heads. I think C.J. Stroud is a lot better than people are expecting.
Yeah, well, he had a rough first game, but I mean, the guy was basically pressured.
I ignore anything going on in the preseason. Yeah. This is teams working on the kinks.
Yeah.
This is not stuff that you're going to see on an actual Sunday in football once we start the real games. You have to figure out certain scenarios. Yeah. And he's going through progressions and live game action. You got to remember these coaches are getting with the quarterbacks and actually all players really, and really discussing each and every play in detail. What were you thinking? What were your progressions? So a lot of kinks are figured out in preseason. That's why you don't really see. You've seen teams go 4-0 in the preseason or 3-0 in the whatever it is now, and then end up coming out and not winning a game for 6 weeks. So you're working out the kinks, and it might look good in preseason, but when it comes to the regular season, you got to make sure that all parts are ready to go. All parts are ready to be in this scenario to start winning games.
Well, obviously you don't put too much on the preseason, especially when talking about, these rookie quarterbacks, because they're playing either they're up against third stringers or they're playing with third stringers, fourth stringers, guys that may not even make the team. It's understandable. But then there's times where you look at the preseason and that's when you see, these quarterbacks, because I even actually last week when I did the AFC and the NFC West, I was talking about Mahomes and I put a flashback from us talking about Mahomes his rookie year and just basically saying like this guy through preseason looks like he's going to be good. Mm-hmm. Which was funny because I mean obviously we didn't think that he was going to be that like this good, but we thought he would be good because you saw signs of it. Like you saw, how strong his arm was, the outside the pocket presence, and extending a play, making the plays. Again, we didn't expect him to be Patrick Mahomes, but we expected good things because of what we saw in preseason.
No.
So there's things that you can look at with preseason where you're like, all right, it's preseason. But then there's also things that you could be like, wow, like this kid could be good.
You know, the Patrick Mahomes situation really though is like a big a big difference because obviously the rookie year, he didn't play. No. And he showed some signs, which is great, but the mindset was he wasn't going to be playing. And the truth is, you know, you got a lot of these names now that we are just rushing into it, and nobody can preach on it more than me as a New York Jet fan and what we have done with all rookie quarterbacks. I mean, look at Geno Smith sitting in Seattle right now. Look at Mark Sanchez. You know he came in, but there wasn't a lot expecting of him right there, so it was a little different. Geno Smith, a lot expected. You know, he came in on a second year. It's hard to rush these guys in there, and it takes time for them to learn, especially if it's a very complicated offense, a full offense to learn in the NFL. You know, people try to compare what needs to be learned in that kind of. You need to know not just your position. You need to know everyone's. Yeah. What everyone's doing on the blocking scheme, what everyone's doing on the route running, whatever. There's so much to learn as a quarterback. Yeah. You can't just have a 22-year-old kid coming out of college and be like, yeah, we need you to know all this information by week one.
Or even some of the guys that only
Patrick
played
Mahomes took in so much learning in that year. Ask Aaron Rodgers, too. Same thing. So much learning in the process.
Aaron Rodgers had 3 years behind.
So by the time he came out, he was ready to go. He knew that offense like the back of his hand. He knew where everyone should be. All the pieces were in the right places. And he was able to be successful right off the bat. Yeah. You know, you just see too many of these and then people writing a lot of guys off. I mean, people writing off Zach Wilson already. And, you know, the truth is that, give me like 3 or 4 years and then I'll be fine to have him. Yeah. You know, so I'm not really concerned about that concept. He needs to learn the offense real well. Yeah. You got to stop throwing these kids out there. Yeah. Geno Smith, another great example. You know, he goes right to Seattle, learns this offense, and now he is a great player, probably a top 15 quarterback. We would have went in 5 more picks. Geno Smith would have been on that list for me.
100%.
And there's a possibility he can move up to the top 10. He played really well last year, and I feel like he's almost gotten forgotten at times, but he is definitely right in that area. Yeah. You know, he has done.
You know, with Geno Smith, people looked at him as one of those mobile quarterbacks, but last year with Seattle, he actually showed his arm, and it was surprising, and it was fun to watch.
Of course.
I mean, Seattle, people looked at Seattle where after they traded Russell Wilson to Denver, it was like, well, they're sticking with Geno Smith. Like, you know, it's just going to be a rebuild.
People were unsure about that situation.
I mean, look at what he did.
He did a great job.
It's unbelievable.
So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even, count out Sam Darnold yet. I wouldn't even count out a lot of these rookie quarterbacks. I mean, Sam Darnold, where is he now? He's backing up.
He's at San Francisco.
He's backing up.
And they're talking about him being number 2 now, which is, you know, last week when I got into the West, I said, like, if the 49ers were going to go with Brock Purdy as QB1, you got to get rid of Trey Lance. Because, first of all, not only are they saying that Brock Purdy is going to be QB1, but they're also saying that Sam Darnold's probably going to be his backup. So now you have a number 3 pick that you traded the house for, and you're going to have him as the number 3 and then just keep him there? Like, I feel like you have to move on from Trey Lance, you know, especially if you're going to go with Purdy. And Sam Darnold's that number 2 now. Like, some of these guys that are, you know, guys that were hyped up at first that just didn't end up being that are showing that they actually have the talent. It was just the right spot for them. And with Geno Smith, Seattle was the right spot for him because he went to, you know, from the Jets. He was, you know, went to the Giants as well. He did a couple of, I think there was one other team in there.
There was just so much learning being done. Yeah. And now he has turned into a solid quarterback for that team. And honestly, Seattle, you know, turned a lot of heads last year. And I don't expect them to stop. I think maybe their defensive side might be a little bit of a liability. But that just shows how much more is going to be on Geno Smith's shoulders, and he's just going to have to find a way to be successful. I think Geno Smith is a great player, but again, he is just another example that you can't just toss out these rookie quarterbacks because there's so much to learn. Like, I don't even think a kid even understands it because it took me a long time to fully understand it, you know, like, so coming off my own experience, you know, it takes a long time to learn this, you know, and for these organizations that continue to do this with the rookie quarterbacks, I mean, they're pressured by GMs. That's what it is.
Well, you look at it and you look at how much money is put into these top 10 picks, at quarterback, and it's like, you know what, it's like you were saying, they're kind of forced because of how much money they have invested in these guys. And then you also got to think of the pressure that the fans put on these teams because of all right, well, we just watched you draft one of these top quarterbacks and we don't have a quarterback for our team, obviously going for, drafting a quarterback. So you're like, as a fan, you're hyped up that you have one of these guys on your team. So it's like, it's kind of a pressure from the front office. It's a pressure from the fans. There's a lot of pressures that go into a rookie quarterback playing right away because everybody wants to see it. They don't want to have a season just go by the wayside just because you're trying to groom a quarterback, which
of course,
and that's the issue. And to me, that's why I think you should go for that rookie quarterback before you get rid of that veteran. With the Packers did. The Packers, you had Favre and you go out and you get Aaron Rodgers, and then because Aaron Rodgers was one of the top quarterbacks in that draft that were, they had the camera on him throughout that whole draft. And it was like the fact that he didn't go where he was supposed to go, it was a big story. So it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers was Tom Brady get drafted in the 6th round. Aaron Rodgers was one of those top quarterbacks that should have been drafted earlier. And the Packers were able to land him and then had him sit behind Brett Favre for 3 years. And then Aaron Rodgers becomes Aaron Rodgers. And that's what you're hoping, especially with the Jets, you're hoping that Zach Wilson can get groomed, even though they threw him out there to burn in the fire. They threw him out there last year, and it was like, so you're hoping that him now kind of, you hope that he gets humbled, that he starts to become like a sponge from Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's what you're getting so far, especially just watching, Hard Knocks, which we'll get into when we get into the Jets. But this is the fun episode that I wanted you to be along for, being that you're a Jets fan, I'm a Cowboys fan. We're going to get into the NFC and the AFC East.
Running up the score NFL preview.
The last episode of the previews.
AFC East.
With the AFC East, we'll start with
Miami Dolphins.
The Miami Dolphins going into this season, they were, there's a lot of questions around Tua, obviously with the injuries, the head injuries, which is the worst injuries to have because, especially at quarterback, but you don't want to see the year that Tua had last year. And there was serious concerns surrounding him after his 3rd concussion, so it was a little scary.
It's not going to get better because they just lost Armstead. This is an anchor of a left tackle now, and now you're looking at a quarterback that is on the shortest leash in regards to injuries.
Yeah,
this kid hits the ground once, there'll be 4 doctors around him. Especially after what I saw last year, this is a big reason why I actually surprisingly have Miami finishing dead last in our division this year. Everyone's writing off New England. They all think New England's going to finish last. I don't think that's correct at all. New England still has a very, very good defense. They're going to be able to use that and be able to manage their offense. Ramondre Stevenson, a decent offensive line. Miami might have a hard time. Having Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, these are great talents. But I don't know how long Tua is going to be on the field. I really don't. I truly don't. I don't know about the running game of the Miami Dolphins. They have 3 solid backs that they added. They added a rookie in Ashane. They have Jeff Wilson Jr. now. It's going to be like a 3-back committee that they're going to use. It's going to be tough to find holes. Except you lose Armstead, that's a big loss right before the season starts. Everyone's talking about the Jets' offensive line struggles, and I think they're going to struggle as well. But I think they're going to be able to, same thing, just ride the defense. I think Buffalo, they take a step back, but I think there's still enough to give them that division. I think they're still good enough to win that division, but when you lose your middle linebacker, that is your communicator, and that's exactly what happened to the Buffalo Bills. They lost a big-time middle linebacker, and he was the big-time communicator.
Edmonds.
Yes, and now he's on Chicago, and he's a big part. I think Buffalo still has a great team. I think their offense will be able to move the ball at will. But they have a questionable running game as well. Josh Allen makes up for that because of how talented he is, hence why he's in my top 3. So I think Buffalo takes a step down, but I think that step still keeps them on the highest step. I think the Jets are probably going to be second here. I want to see the Jets go and beat that hump. I have faith in our defense to be able to lead that and get wins against Buffalo. But it really will come down to those games. It really will come down to week 1 even almost. I mean, that's a huge game for both, organizations. Obviously, Monday night, first week of the season. I think the defense of the New York Jets is better than Buffalo's defense. Yeah. But I obviously think the offense of the Bills is a lot better than the New York Jets offense, especially with the struggles that they're having at offensive line. The Jets are going to have to be able to run the football and play defense. And can they stop Buffalo? They certainly can. But it's really going to come down to what the offense of the New York Jets can do. And Aaron Rodgers. So they look good on paper. It's got to show up on the field. You got to be able to block. I think that might be the one reason. I think the Jets are right there the whole time. And then I say New England, and then I'm going Miami to round it out. And honestly, the Miami ranking is strictly because I do not think that Tua is going to survive the season. I think he's really going to just be on a very, very short leash. I think a lot of people are going to end up, once he gets hurt, there's going to be so many people surrounding him. The NFL will be looking in every angle before he's cleared to play again. It'll be a very difficult process. So he'll miss weeks here and there, without a doubt. And you're just hoping he doesn't, nothing long lasting. But I mean, if Tua stays healthy, this team is in third, and New England rounds out the fourth. But I will make the prediction that I don't think this kid's going to survive the season. And I'm pretty sure that New England, with their good defense and, game manager Mac Jones and a good running game that we know New England has, New England might be able to make out the third place in this. And I think Miami surprisingly is 4.
Well, obviously Miami goes out and gets Jalen Ramsey in the offseason.
And that loss obviously doesn't help.
Now he's out.
Off-season grade.
I'm going to give them a B+. Obviously getting Jalen Ramsey, that's huge.
Yeah.
But now you lose him. So that's a struggle there. You're hoping that Tua stays on the field, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I think their offense, their defense is okay. Their defense isn't bad.
No.
Adding Jalen Ramsey makes it better.
But not having him now is
not
just...
having him. And now not having him until, they're talking about December.
These are big holes to have on the team.
Huge holes. But, you add Deshaun Elliott at safety helps, obviously. That's, something. But, just... Now, there's just a big question mark around Miami. And then you look at their draft.
NFL draft recap.
I gave them a C+. They had only 4 picks in this draft. So that's,
And one of the guys was Ashane you talked about. But the guy's 188 pounds. In the history of the NFL, doesn't even matter. It's not relevant.
Yeah.
You need someone that's going to, we just talked about Tua's health. I don't need a kid at 188 pounds trying to block defensive ends.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the problem.
The defensive ends that are in the AFC East, especially.
You're going to put Quentin Williams against Ashani. He's just going to push Ashani out of the way, and then guess who's the next target? Tua. And this is the person we want to keep healthy. So it's a good pick to get a change of pace back, but you don't even have that back. So it's Miami again.
All of their running backs are small, because they have Raheem Mostert.
That was the other name. Yeah, that was the third name of the 3-headed monster they're going to have.
Jeff Wilson, Mostert, and Ashani.
Free agency recap.
I'm going to give him an A+ though. But again, losing now, Jalen Ramsey, that's a huge thing that has to do with these grades. They obviously lost Mike Gesicki, so that obviously is a big loss for their offense as well. But, you're hoping that David Long on the defensive side of the ball, at linebacker can help this team on defense. Their defense already, like I said, it's not bad. It's not a bad defense. It's just now there's a lot of question marks on offense where it's this offense could be good.
The defense will keep them competing. But again, if Tua gets hurt, this will be an interesting situation for the Miami Dolphins.
It's all contingent on Tua. That's
and their offense might start putting their defense in bad scenarios. And
will they make the playoffs?
My answer is yes. Your answer is
no. I don't think they make the playoffs. And it's literally just based on the Tua health.
Yeah.
Again, when I'm not even sugarcoating this. He hits the floor once.
Yeah.
There's going to be doctors galore around this guy at all times, especially after what happened last year, and it was quite debatable whether he should have played in a certain game. There's going to be a lot of extensive testing for him. So I'm telling you, that's the issue, and it's going to be hard to keep him on the field. And a very good talent when he's on the field.
The spotlight is definitely brighter now.
He's definitely not going to run with the ball more. I mean, so you're really going to bank it on his arm, which he's proven has worked.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the most accurate, and we've all seen it as well. So, again, Miami, decent defense like we talked about. They're already losing names left and right. Offense, they're losing big-time anchors. It's going to be a difficult situation for the Miami Dolphins. They're going to need to keep Tua healthy. I don't know if it's going to happen. Therefore, I do not think they're going to make the playoffs.
Contender or pretender?
Obviously, we already know your answer.
It's just based on what my prediction is.
Absolutely.
My prediction is just straight up that this dude is not going to play. With Tua on the field, Miami's a playoff team.
Yeah.
With him on the field.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard to keep him on.
My answer to that is I actually said pretender. I feel like they're a good team. And they do have the high potential of making the playoffs, barring, Tua. But I just, in terms of the AFC, because this has been my mantra for the whole, every preview that I've done is these borderline AFC teams. It's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs this year because of how good the AFC is. Because you're the borderline teams that are going to make the playoffs, in the wild card, are going to be really good teams, and that's the thing. So I feel like this team is one of those teams that could make the playoffs, but I just see them as a pretender going through the playoffs because I like a lot of other teams in the AFC.
2023 season outlook.
Basically, you've given your expectations throughout this whole team.
On the entire four.
I mean, mine is basically the same. My biggest thing I said is all contingent on Tua staying healthy. This team,
he's not healthy. They're fourth.
Yeah, and
New England will be better than them. And it's sad because I think Mike McDaniels is a very good coach, so it's really nothing against that. It's just a concept of just you got to be able to keep your quarterback healthy, and it's going to just be tough, especially
100%.
with losing this left tackle. It's just going to be a disaster for Miami and that issue at all.
What are the odds?
over under is 9.5 wins.
Under.
They're plus 290 to win the division. They're plus 1,300 to win the AFC. That's seventh best in the AFC, and they're minus 105 to make the playoffs. That's 15th best in the AFC, the whole NFL.
Buffalo Bills.
Their biggest issue is offensive line, and we basically talked about that before.
Off-season grade.
I'm gonna give them a B. This is where paying Josh Allen comes into this, because now you got to start really working the team around a very, very high-priced quarterback.
Yeah, of course.
So they, obviously, as we said before, they got rid of, or they didn't get rid of, but they lost Tremaine Edmonds, which was huge. He gets that deal in Chicago. They kept Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, which is huge for this
very
defense.
good. Probably the best safety tandem in all the NFL, let alone the AFC.
Yeah, and it's huge because they're the anchor of this defense. Like they're basically the quarterback of this defense, and that's huge. Connor McGovern will help on the offensive line. Deontay Hardy, who is at receiver, they're hoping that he can add a little bit. Obviously, to you already have Gabe Davis, you already have Stephon Diggs. You're hoping that this guy can really add that
It factor.
Yeah, basically.
NFL draft recap.
B+. They added Osiris Terrence in the second round, and they were also able to pick up Dalton Kincaid, which through the training camp, that guy has been looked at as Josh Allen's number one receiver, which is interesting.
Yes.
Because obviously we had a lot of this offseason stuff with the Bills. Like, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows in Buffalo, this offseason, because of the whole thing that happened at the end of the season in the playoffs with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Obviously, that was media-based. At least that's what Stephon Diggs and that's what Josh Allen have said. Like, this is all driven through the media. So that shouldn't be an issue. We should see the same old Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen connection. They just added a top tight end from the draft. So that was huge.
Free agency recap.
Give him a B. They extended Matt Milano, and then as I said before, keeping Jordan Poyer, keeping Micah Hyde together. Obviously, they lost Tremaine Edmonds, but adding Damian Harris could help the running game. As we said, their running game is a little suspect. They add him to James Cook and Nyheim Hines, which Nyheim Hines got hurt.
Yep.
So that's, and I think they're hoping that James Cook ends up being Dalvin Cook, eventually, which he showed signs.
I think Damian Harris has definitely got a possibility of being the main back for this team. James Cook could definitely be a change of pace and, obviously could emerge to be, the featured guy, but Damian Harris is no joke. Again, it really is going to come down to Buffalo opening holes for their running game. I think the running game has been a struggle for them.
Yeah.
Josh Allen makes up for that because he is such a great talent. And they're going to have a really good offense, obviously adding that very skillful tight end.
Yeah.
But again, it just comes down to it. Losing a communicator on your defense is a big part. There's a lot of communicators. They have a lot of great players. I think Buffalo, again, like I said, they take one step back, but I think it's not a big step at all. I think it's like a very minimal step. And I still think, they could sit there and be on top of the AFCs come the end of the season.
Will they make the playoffs?
Obviously, you think that the Bills are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Again, they're one of those teams that it's like, it's a stupid question.
Contender or pretender?
They're a contender.
Mm-hmm.
They are the contender to go up against Kansas City, and that's kind of every year these last 3 years. That's what you were hoping for, obviously, until the Bengals came into that and really ruffled feathers. So these are the Bengals, the Bills, and the Chiefs are those three teams that you're like so excited to watch in the playoffs. But now you're kind of adding the Jets in there, and when we get into the Jets, we'll talk about that.
What are the odds?
Under over 10.5 wins. I'm going to go over on that. They're plus 130 to win division. You could thank the Jets for their being not a clear-cut favorite. Plus 450 to win the AFC. That's second best in the NFL. And minus 250 to make the playoffs, rightfully so. They really are a playoff caliber talented team.
Yeah, obviously.
New England Patriots.
They picked up Zeke on a 1-year deal. And obviously they have that QB battle. I don't think it's really that much of a battle anymore. I think it's Mac Jones' job.
Off-season grade.
Didn't really do much. They added Mike Gesicki, which obviously is, they've been very tight end heavy lately because, what was it, 2 years ago? They added Jonnu Smith. They added, they just started adding tight ends. Mike Gesicki is one of the better tight ends in the league. You start the tight end list at Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle, and then it's really drops off from there. Mike Gesicki is that next tier.
Well, Mike Gesicki is a good blocker and he's a good route runner. That's what makes a really good tight end. Honestly, all the names that you just named right there do all that. So, for the Patriots, I'm not sure what was going on with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. A lot of guys being signed, but Mike Gesicki's job this year. Then they added James Robinson and some offensive line depth.
Juju.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster. Not really a lot of eye-popping additions. I can't agree more with the grade when it comes to their what they brought in. But
it's kind of like Bill Belichick type, pickups. Low-priced veteran type of players that that he knows he can get the most out of. And that's Bill Belichick. He starts using these young guys that are great. They get ready to make their big contract and he's like, I don't need you anymore. See ya. Yep. He's that type of guy that it's weird. You watch some of these guys and it's like, all right, Micah Parsons on the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to pay him. The Cowboys are going to pay him.
No.
NFL draft recap.
Honestly, when it comes, you're on the right side of the football, and I think that's where New England got themselves better. I think on the defensive side, adding, Christian Gonzalez and Keon White, these are two defensive players that are young, going to fit right into this system with the New England Patriots. Their defense, that's what the team's going to go through right now. Yeah. Nothing really crazy on the offensive side that I can really brag about. Losing Damian Harris was not a small loss at all. He's a very good player. Adding a couple of tackles to their offensive line will always help. You want to try and make sure that you're able to move the ball. Ramondre Stevenson, I know what to expect out of him. Zeke's going to be a great complementary back as well. New England's on that mindset of running the football and playing good defense to win football games. And I think I think that might be enough for them to get third in this division.
Will they make the playoffs?
I do also have them with Miami not making the playoffs out of the AFC East.
Yeah, I don't have them making the playoffs either.
Contender or pretender?
I have them a pretender, obviously not making the playoffs.
2023 season outlook.
I'm expecting a mediocre season. Obviously I think Bill Belichick is going to get them those extra wins that they probably wouldn't get with.
I think their defense could be more along the lines to do it. I mean, they have a lot of names on their defense.
They do.
You know, you really can't ignore
Matthew Judon is like the biggest name on that defense, and it's like, that's
Jonathan Jones too. There's a lot of guys that they have good corners. I think they're going to be effective. I think they're going to be able to stop people, and they're really going to just try to run the football. Yeah. They're really on a similar mindset of what I want for the next team we're going to talk about.
What are the odds?
Under over 7.5 wins for the New England Patriots. I'm going to go under on that one. It's crazy to say them coming in third, even with that happening. There's a way they could snake a few wins. I think 7 will be the number that I think they'll get. I don't think they're going to get that 8th win, to be honest with you.
Dude, honestly,
it's a great line.
Every single team that I've looked at their over-unders, I almost went under on all of them, and only under by a 0.5. Like, it's literally every single team I've been going, because I'm like, you know what? Vegas is always right around that. And like, there's a couple of teams that I went over, like Chiefs, I went over by 1. Like it was never like, I think 95% of the teams that I've previewed so far, I've went under on all of them by 0.5. Like,
well, I have them finishing third with 7. And
that's
just because,
literally
again, my prediction is the Miami, him losing. Plus 750 to win the division. Plus 3,000 to win the AFC. That's 11th best in the AFC. And plus 250 to make the playoffs, which sounds like a right spread.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of people seeing the New England Patriots unless their formula works real well.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to work real well. Their defense is gonna have to be really good and stay really healthy. Yeah. But the 2 additions of the 2 rookies, definitely a good plus. I definitely agree with you on the grade. I think that's a good B, probably close to a B plus for their draft. Yeah. They definitely added names on the defensive end, which you can never have enough people on your defensive side of the football.
Absolutely.
We'll make our way to the 4th team.
New York Jets.
Trying to stay non-biased here. There's no secret that the New York Jets, added some really big names in the offseason to go with 2 previous Rookie of the Years and, obviously, signing a really good player like Quinnen Williams. The Jets are really well designed right now to really have a good year, be able to switch guys out on the defensive side, be able to switch out Dalvin Cook with Breece Hall, keep Breece Hall healthy, Aaron Rodgers to be a great game manager. Honestly, when it comes to me from Aaron Rodgers, the only thing I saw was the last 2 minutes of the 4th quarter or the last 2 minutes of a half. I'm not looking for Rodgers to go out there and throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards. I just need him to find ways to win games with a very talented roster. The New York Jets are really designed to have a great season this year on paper. Yep. But it goes a lot more than that. The Jets defense will be one of the best defenses in football this season. There's no doubt Robert Saleh has been a really good defensive mind since the second he's been in the league. The struggle has always been the offensive side, and right now, from what you've seen on Hard Knocks, obviously one of the offensive coaches is someone sitting on the field, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So the Jets are really designed to, be a threat on both sides of the football. They have a shot here to dethrone the Buffalo Bills for that division, just because of the small step I thought they took, and obviously I think the Jets took a giant leap, as well as Vegas. Vegas thought they took a giant leap as well with these additions. And then obviously, even going all the way to the draft, I mean, they added a lot more than just Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook. You talk about McCole Hardman, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, a lot of receivers in this. I actually looked back at a picture a while back at some of the starting receivers for the New York Jets in about 4 or 5 years ago in the season. And just, you're very grateful to have a lot of depth on the receiving core, a lot of depth on the running backs. Guys get hurt in this league. This is how it works. Next guy up, Jets have a lot of those next guys.
They have guys that have played with Aaron Rodgers. So, that was huge just in making it more comfortable for Aaron Rodgers. The guy spent, he's 18 years into the league already. Mm-hmm. And all of it has been with Green Bay. So to make him more comfortable moving on, that was huge. And to me, obviously their biggest issue is the offensive line. And we saw that earlier in episode 2 of Hard Knocks. But, what I've been noticing is just how, and I said this last week, just how different Aaron Rodgers is. When you look at him through the media, you're like, this guy's an asshole. But then you actually see him behind the scenes and you're like, you know what? You don't understand where this comes from. You know, like it's crazy. And, I've actually grown to like Aaron Rodgers more, especially through Hard Knocks. And, signing Dalvin Cook, I think will help Breece Hall, kind of take off some of the burden, and especially a guy that just came back from an ACL tear. Like it's huge to have a guy like Dalvin Cook to add. And, I think the biggest difference that Aaron Rodgers has made to this team is to Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson is my buy. Like, that's the guy that, if I'm looking into the hobby, like Zach Wilson, where his prices were, at the beginning before even really starting, he's way down. And you feel like he can get back up to that, when he ends up taking over as starter. Because I've just been noticing things through the first 2 preseason games. I've been noticing things that you didn't notice from Zach Wilson through his first season. The biggest thing, Zach Wilson never wanted to dump down to the running back or a short route to the tight end. Like, he never wanted to do that through his starts in the NFL. I'm noticing that in preseason. Like, he's not trying to take that deep route every single time. He's dumping it off. Then they give him that deep route and he takes it. So you're like, his throws have been on point. His pocket presence has been a lot better. I think that this guy sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for the next 2 years is going to be so huge for the Jets.
Yeah.
And I am the biggest unbiased person to be talking about the Jets because I'm not a Jets fan, obviously, and I'm a Cowboys fan living in New York. I hear a lot of shit, for being a Cowboys fan. And I hear it even from the Jets fans. My opinion of the Jets has never been good just because of Jets fans talking shit about the Cowboys. So the fact that I'm high on the Jets is huge. Like, that right there should tell you. So that's huge. And just, what you were saying about the offseason.
Off-season grade.
I gave him a B+, so that's huge.
NFL draft recap.
B, Will McDonald, I think, is going to be a nut job for the Jets defense.
Free agency recap.
Just bringing in Aaron Rodgers, I think, that's the A that I gave. And then just adding McCole Hardman, adding Alan Lazard. Like, this is a team, as I said in the offseason, which I flashed back to us talking about the offseason with the Jets, and I said if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Absolutely.
And that's how I feel.
Will they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Contender or pretender?
They are a contender, and I think now you put them in that conversation with the Bengals, with the Bills, and with the Chiefs. Like, this is how good of an offseason that the Jets had. And, I mean, they were already defensive heavy. Like, this team, they're literally defense. Like, that's, even when they were bad, their defense has always been good. Yeah. With Rex Ryan, defense was good. Defense was really good. They're getting back to that, and their defense is really good. Sauce Gardner, Darrelle Revis. Like, that's, when you really look at it, it's like, it's uncanny that they're just basically building that same kind of defense. Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. This team is stacked on defense, and now they're stacked on offense. Because I think Garrett Wilson is one of the better wide receivers in the league, and I think he's only going to show even more this year. And I think Sauce, and as I said last week, Sauce and Garrett Wilson going up against each other in practice is like the biggest thing to happen for this team. Yeah. So I love this team, really. I honestly, it's crazy to say. I love, and watching them on Hard Knocks, it's like, it's getting me more excited for the Jets. And that's, I don't know what is going on right now that I'm even saying something like this.
I can imagine. No, honestly, it's a concept of just, the Jets made some great additions, and they obviously put themselves in a good situation, and we'll see if these additions work out. Again, I'm probably the one Jet fan out here that's going to watch Aaron Rodgers not throw for 300 yards every game and not be upset about it. There'll be a lot of upsetting fans from that standpoint, but for me, it's the last 2 minutes of each half. That's really what we need Aaron Rodgers for. We're going to run the football. We're going to play good defense. Really, we need you for the last 2 minutes.
What are the odds?
Under over 9.5 wins. I'm going straight over for the New York Jets. Plus 250 to win a division. Obviously, we talked there. The only reason why Buffalo isn't the favorite, like in regards to an actual, minus spread. Plus 1,000 to win the AFC. That's fifth best in the AFC. A minus 134 to make the playoffs. So they really expect the Jets to be number 2 here to Buffalo with a chance at number 1. So yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. I do think the Jets are going to make the playoffs.
NFC East.
We might as well start with the most hated team.
Philadelphia Eagles. Off-season grade.
Gave him a B+. What happened this offseason, it's like weird, because you feel as though that they lost a lot, but then they kind of added a lot in the draft. So it's like, that's why I gave him a B+, because I don't know really what to take, how to put them, because I'm like, they feel worse than they were last year, but then you kind of look at the expectations of what they brought in. Terrell Edmonds, DeAndre Swift, then what they brought in within the draft, and then you kind of look at who they lost. Miles Sanders had 11 touchdowns last year. Mind you, though, my argument on that was just that he had won the year prior. So it was a big year for Miles Sanders last year. They lost Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave was huge for them. But now they're kind of, because Jordan Davis played well last year, they're hoping that Jordan Davis ends up being, that guy for them.
Yeah.
So
NFL draft recap.
They add Jalen Carter. They added Nolan Smith. They added Kelly Ringo. They just basically they added all of Georgia. It's really like it's the Philadelphia Bulldogs basically. But again, this is like, you look at this team and you're like, all right, well, those were like the top defensive players in the draft. And the thing is, it's just, you don't know. So that's why kind of, you give them an A in the draft, but you give them a B+ in the offseason because you're like, you don't know what you're going to get from these guys.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter had some off the field issues as well. So it's like, but he's been killing it in training camp.
Free agency recap.
Give him a B+. They did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's a big loss.
It is a big loss.
That's a really big loss. But they ended up bringing back James Bradbury. They extended Darius Slay. So that they brought back guys that I thought they were going to lose. Mm-hmm. So that was huge. But again, you're hoping that Nakobe Dean will come back better than, T.J. Edwards or Kazir White. Jordan Davis is now filling in for Javon Hargrave. You're hoping that a lot of these younger guys are going to fill in for spots that they lost players at.
Will they make the playoffs?
Yes. It's one of those dumb questions.
Yeah.
These two divisions, AFC East, NFC East, the AFC East has gotten better, obviously, now that the Jets are in that conversation with the Dolphins, which are contingent on Tua, and Josh Allen and the Bills. And then you look at the NFC East, 3 teams made the playoffs last year. And you're expecting the same thing out of the NFC East again.
2023 season outlook.
I'm going to try to make this as unbiased as I can. I think it's going to be different than last year for the Eagles. I think it's not going to be as great. They went on a real streak last season, and the Eagles obviously made it to the Super Bowl. But, I can't overlook them having the easiest schedule in the NFL. Them going up in the playoffs against the New York Giants that some may even think that they overplayed, they were kind of overrated last year. Or they underrated. I don't however you want to put it. But they were not matched up well against the Eagles. So that's their first game in the playoffs. Then they go up against the San Francisco 49ers, and Christian McCaffrey played in that game at quarterback. Not at running back, at quarterback. So and then they go up against the Chiefs, and mind you, I am a big Jalen Hurts hater. Jalen Hurts played one of the better games in the Super Bowl than I've ever seen. Yeah. And they still lost. So I think there's a lot of differences from last year to this year. And that is my expectations for the Eagles. I think it's going to be different. It's going to be a harder schedule. The teams know what they're going to see from Jalen Hurts. They kind of have to respect the throw. So he's going to have to try to make, better passes. I mean, some of the passes, if you actually really look at them, I mean, come on. Like, that's the thing. Like, he was helped out a lot. So I think it's just going to be a different year for the Eagles. And the expectations, I think, are way, way higher than they actually should be. Because I think this team is going to be one of the better in the NFC East. I think they're going to be one of the better in the NFC. But to be a Super Bowl team again, you have to look at some of these teams that have lost the Super Bowls. Their next year, not as good. It's hard to make the Super Bowl 2 years in a row if you're not the Chiefs, the Patriots, or that's the thing. Like, it's going to be a rough year. I don't think it's going to be a rough year for the Eagles, but I think it's going to be a tougher year because now you're the target. The year prior, you weren't the target. You didn't even make the playoffs. And last year, you kind of surprised everybody. Jalen Hurts surprises everybody. So I think it's going to be a little bit different. So I think everybody has to curb the expectations, the way that they have this year.
What are the odds?
Over under 11.5 wins. I have them under. I like 11. I like 11 because the beginning of their schedule is kind of easy-ish. Like, they could maybe rattle off the first 5 wins. So I think that's going to help, obviously, and I think they can get to 11 wins. Minus 115 to win the division, plus 330 to win the NFC, which is first.
They are the favorite.
They are the favorite. And they're minus 400 to make the playoffs.
Washington Commanders.
They have their quarterback.
Yeah, Sam Howell.
Sam Howell is named the starting quarterback for this team. I mean, what are your expectations for this team? Like, I mean,
off-season grade.
B-,
NFL draft recap.
B,
free agency recap.
C+. So they're like, they had an okay offseason, basically, is what I was getting at. I think Jacoby Brissett is a good backup to bring in for Sam Howell. But I mean, they're really banking on Sam Howell. But I do think bringing in Bieniemy, now the whole ownership has changed. I think they're on the road to be a different team.
Yeah, I think so. I think Washington's going to really, again, be one of those teams that just leads with the defense. Their offense is going to try to find ways to move the ball. They have 2 capable backs in Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. The defense is going to have to shut the door. Their front line is arguably one of the best in football. Probably one of the most quiet ones, too. Not a lot of people realize how good the front is for the Washington Commanders.
Well, just because of how, the issues that Chase Young's been having. His rookie year, it was like, oh, wow. This
unstoppable.
This kid,
now the injuries are really catching up to him. So, it really, if it stays based on, really on his health. So, but it really, obviously, again, it isn't just him. There is a lot of them up there. You're looking at Darren Payne, obviously.
Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen is arguably the best player on this defense. So, and arguably one of the best defensive tackles in the league, obviously.
Yes.
So, just, I think the biggest thing is their secondary, and their secondary adding Cameron Dantzler and Cody Barton obviously will help.
2023 season outlook.
My expectations for this team is just, I think they'll rattle off some wins that they shouldn't have won. That's the thing. Like when it comes to division games, and especially in the NFC East, they're all tough games.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if they're a bad team or not. They're going to give the rest of the teams a hard game. Mm-hmm. And that's just what you're expecting when you're, with the Commanders. The Commanders against every other team, though, they're going to struggle. Bieniemy, I think he's one of the most talented offensive minds in the league. And I think this year is just like a building year. Like, what are we going to get from Bieniemy? What are we going to get from Sam Howell playing a full season? Like, this is just
this is his way to. This really is his way to prove it. Sam Howell, there's question marks. The offense is really where the questions are with this team, and it really will go as far as the offense goes.
What are the odds?
The under over 6.5 wins. I'm going to go under on that. The defense will be really good. Tough division with a lot of defenses that I think are even better than theirs in their division. That's what really makes it so tough. It's not, lightening up what kind of defense they have. The rest of the defenses in their division are very, very tough as well. So, therefore, they're not even matching up on the defensive side with any of the teams in their division. It just shows how good the division is defensively. So, I'm going to go under 6.5 wins, plus 1,300 to win division. Good luck with that. Plus 3,000 to win the NFC, which is 12th best in the NFC. And then plus 310 to make the playoffs, which is rightfully so.
Will they make the playoffs?
I do not think that the Washington Commanders will make the playoffs. They really are the bottom barrel of this division. I could be wrong here. I've seen crazier things happen. Bieniemy needs to prove it. And that's really what it comes down to. This is the, like you said, it's a rebuilding block. It's a big one for Bieniemy. You're the offensive mind. Your defense is going to speak for itself. You got to find ways to win games, but I just don't see it happening now. Not in this division.
I think the biggest thing is just the ownership changeover. I think is huge for this team because it's literally every single year we heard Dan Snyder's name brought up in something. So I think just the fact that they don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, they might end up being the Redskins again, which is crazy. I would love to see that because the Washington Commanders sounds like a CFL team. The Washington football team sounded ridiculous, but just overall, I think the culture in Washington is on the upswing. It's changing, and I think that's only going to help a team that's already in a tough division. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to help this team and this division be even better. I think Washington has a chance eventually to be one of those teams that could really, like, 4 of these teams could possibly make the playoffs. Like, that's how crazy this division is.
New York Giants.
We're New York guys. We're in the New York area. It's Jets, Giants. That's all you hear. That's all you hear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the Jets have overtaken the Giants now. Like, it was always Giants were big brother. They just made Daniel Jones a very rich man. They had their issues with Saquon Barkley, got him a deal for a 1-year deal. They brought in Darren Waller. This team is getting better. Unfortunately, I think that they overplayed their expectations last year. I mean, not unfortunately, but it is unfortunate because I think people are hyping them up more than they actually should be. I think this team is talented. I think Daniel Jones is talented. I think the biggest thing this year is, you put the money behind Daniel Jones. It's time to find out if he's really that guy. Because I still don't think that they found out that he's that guy. They just needed a quarterback, and they needed to pay him.
I mean, the truth is, you see, if Daniel Jones starts doing things like if he starts sitting in the pocket like Dak Prescott and not using his legs at any point, you'll see a very similar result. I mean, right now, Daniel Jones is using his legs to find ways to move the ball. And it goes into really just an understanding of the offense. This is his 3rd year now. A lot of different changes, a lot of different names. Darren Waller definitely being a nice weapon. The receiving core is still, mediocre at best. And they also have the guy Bellinger.
Yeah.
Who's another great tight end. So you're looking at a lot of 2 tight end sets from the New York Giants. Trying to run the football with Saquon Barkley and trying to play good defense. I think the one thing that a lot of people really are sleeping on with the New York Giants is their defense. Their front line is going to be very good. And if you have a front line that's going to get pressure on the quarterback, I'm not really caring if you have rookies in the secondary, whoever you have in the secondary. So
well, they brought in Bobby Okereke, which was a big pickup. They brought in Ashawn Robinson, another good guy to bring on defense. You're looking at this team, and a lot of people are high on Jalen Hyatt. This team is they have that potential to be a sleeper. They bring in Paris Campbell. I think their offense got better. Their defense got better, actually. Having Kayvon Thibodeau already, then, having Azeez Ojulari, like you were saying, their defensive line is very good, and then you add Dexter Lawrence in the middle. This team needs to build around their defensive line. Their offensive line is not good. No. And you're going to see a lot of Daniel Jones running around, but I don't know if that's going to help. I think you need to see both. I think you need to see pocket Daniel Jones, and I think you need to see, obviously because his strength is outside
a lot
pocket.
of his running last year was literally running for his life. So I understand,
Exactly.
But it led to success. It led to them moving the football. So it's interesting to see what kind of Daniel Jones you'll see this year. If you see a more pocket presence, Daniel Jones. Yeah. But this also could go into coaching. I think right now the only thing that makes a difference here is the New York Giants have some talented players, and their offense is subpar, but they have the best coach. They really do. This guy is an incredible coach, and he'll have this team ready to be in a situation to win games. They'll be a dangerous team in the division.
Will they make the playoffs?
Couldn't agree more. I think they are a bubble team. I can't tell you if they're going to make the playoffs or not. I think they could, but that would mean 3 teams would be going from this division again.
Exactly.
So it really goes down to the rest of these divisions and what they have. I mean, if you come up to me telling me, do you think the New York Giants are a better team than the Seattle Seahawks? I'm going to tell you yes.
2023 season outlook.
My expectations for this team, I think, like I said before, I think their last season was kind of smoke and mirrors. Like, this team is okay. I think their defense is better than their offense, but their offense is like really centered around the addition of Darren Waller now. Mm-hmm. And Darren Waller hasn't been able to stay on the field. So the Giants are hoping that he stays on the field. Their defense is good. It's not, top 2 in this division because you're looking at the Eagles defense, you're looking at the Cowboys defense, and then you look at, Washington's defense too. It's like this team's, their odds are stacked against them, especially just being in this division, and it's going to be tough.
What are the odds?
They're over-under is 7.5.
7.5 wins. I'm going to take over. I think they can get 8 wins this year. I really do.
Yeah.
Plus 260 to win the division.
They won 9 last year.
That's pretty friendly. Plus 260 to win the division. Plus 2,200 to win the AFC. That's 9th best, and 172 on the plus category to make the playoffs. I think that's not a bad bet. But 8 wins, I think, is a safe bet. I think the New York Giants can win 8 games. I don't know if it'll be more or less.
I think they can win 8.
I don't think they're going to win less. I don't think they're going to win like 5.
No,
I don't see a season like that at all from them. So
no, but 8 wins is still, under 500. So that's the thing. Like,
I think the New York Giants could be an over 500 team, but again,
they were 9-8 last year. I think again they overplayed.
8-9 is going to give me a win on an under/over bet. That's fine with me. I think the New York Giants are definitely a good.
But I don't think 8-9 makes the playoffs this year.
No, probably not.
So.
I mean, but that's what I mean. Like they really are a bubble team. I can't tell you if they're going to make the playoffs or not.
Dallas Cowboys.
I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Dallas Cowboys added so many weapons. Like we've talked about, though. Like the one thing I had an issue with was just their locker room. With the situation that was going on with Dak Prescott and Diggs. There was a video, like we talked about, it went viral.
Yeah.
That kind of was a little alarming for me. I mean, I saw something very similar with the New York Jets. A lot of players weren't respecting Zach Wilson. You know what I mean?
You know what? I actually saw at one point, I don't think many people, and they didn't really highlight it well in the episode, but someone said something to Aaron Rodgers on the defensive side of the ball, and I think it was Quinnen Williams. But it's just, like, to me, I think this was so blown out of proportion. I think this whole thing between Diggs and Dak, Diggs telling Dak to shut his bitch ass up, whatever it was, my thing with this is
telling someone to shut up is fine. Like they're talking smack, whatever, but bitch ass is just like a lack of respect, and it might just show what kind of player Trayvon Diggs is. It's fine. I don't really. It's not even a big issue, but that's just kind of like. But there are a lot of tense moments in every training camp, so this really,
thing,
I know.
Look at the Jets brawled, and Robert Saleh loved it. He just basically he was like,
it brings out
let them go. And then,
but that's how I want my guys competing. I don't want people using their mouth to try to sit there and get the best of somebody. This is your teammate. It's your teammate.
But you also got to think.
It's your teammate.
Like some of these scuffles have started because of
talking
someone
like
running their mouth.
Yep.
And not everybody's mic'd up, so you're not going to hear it. The fact that the whole thing was blown out of proportion because it's the Dallas Cowboys. That's all it is, and it didn't bother me. It did not bother me because I don't think this had anything to do with disrespect. That's my thing. Speaking of respect, right guard Zach Martin restructured his contract, finally ends his holdout. He's back. I think that's huge. The biggest
addition.
The biggest issue with this team this year is kicking. We saw the issues going into the playoffs last year. That was a big issue. Having the kicking the way it was just that led to them losing to San Francisco. So that was one big thing, and they're continuing this issue into this year because even Aubrey not playing well. So they already got rid of Vizcaino, which he didn't even make it to a preseason game, so they didn't even really care. That's how bad of a training camp he was having.
Off-season grade.
B. I love what they did this offseason. They bring in Stephon Gilmore. They bring in Brandon Cooks. These are positions that the Cowboys had issues with last year. They get experience on both divisions, exactly.
In both positions.
And the issue was they didn't have anybody behind CeeDee Lamb. And it was like they were expecting more from Michael Gallup. But again, Michael Gallup was coming back from an ACL injury. That is, people don't realize because you see guys like Adrian Peterson and guys come back from ACL injuries and they have their best year. But then you have other guys that just struggled to get back. And I think that was what we saw from Michael Gallup last year. So I think Michael Gallup's going to be better this year, especially now having Brandon Cooks, because now it's like it's one-on-one every time now. You have to think, if you're doubling CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup are going to be open. You double Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup is going to be open. So Michael Gallup's going to be seeing a lot of single coverage this year, and that's huge. Stephon Gilmore, on the other hand, the Cowboys had issues at the number 2 cornerback position. Nobody wanted to throw to Trayvon Diggs, which now they're talking about, he doesn't have the interception numbers anymore. He's not good. Like, it's hilarious, the hate that the Dallas Cowboys get. It's clickbait. Everybody has to realize the Cowboys, not only do they get viewers, they get a lot of hate because of that. So it's hilarious when you see what goes on against the Dallas Cowboys. So Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks, huge in this offseason.
NFL Draft Recap.
Mozzie Smith, another position that they needed. This guy was the strongest guy in the draft. He's a monster. And they're hoping that he's a monster this year. And I think it only helps Micah Parsons. It's only going to help DeMarcus Lawrence. It's only going to help Leighton Vander Esch. This all helps. And I think just bringing in this guy is huge. And then bringing in Luke Schumacher is huge because they let Dalton Schultz walk, which I wasn't too mad about because I don't think he was worth the money.
Free agency recap.
A-, and it's huge that they were, and they're A-, not by people that they brought in free agency. It's by the guys that they kept. They keep Tyron Smith. They keep Terrence Steele. They keep Donovan Wilson. It's like that was huge. And the Cowboys got better, which is crazy because they were good last year. And they got better.
Will they make the playoffs?
Yes. Kevin, what do you say?
Honestly, I think the Cowboys are going to be a good team. I think the offense is going to be there with Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks brings a lot of experience. CeeDee Lamb speaks for himself. Tony Pollard's going to be great this year. There's no doubt about it. And Dak running the helm, and obviously adding Zach Morrison back into the offensive line is just really going to make this team very solid. The defensive side, you know what you're getting out of Micah Parsons. You know what you're getting out of this defensive side of the football. Obviously, adding Stephon Gilmore is a lot of experience to be added. Dallas is going to be there. They're going to be right up at the top. There's no doubt about it. They really are very talented.
What are the odds?
I'm surprised their under-over is only 9.5. I'm going up on that one. Plus 175 to win the division. Plus 600 to win the NFC. That is third best. And minus 225 to make the playoffs, like what I just said, I think. They are certainly a playoff team. I think they're winning double-digit games this year. 9-8. It's just over 500. That's a weird under-over for the
it's
Dallas
funny.
Cowboys.
It's funny because people look at the Dallas Cowboys as a 9-win team.
I know.
And like it's crazy to me that it's even like that. I think it's the overhype of the Eagles that they're totally overlooking the Dallas Cowboys. People are like, well, the Dallas Cowboys are good, but people are looking at it. They're looking at the struggles of Dak way too much now. And I think when you look at Dak, yes, had 15 interceptions last year, led the league, tied for the lead in interceptions. Who was he tied with? Josh Allen. But
Wow.
yeah, so the thing with Dak Prescott, he was injured last year. It was a big, like it really had a lot of, because it was his thumb. Like he broke his thumb week 1, and it was on his throwing hand. So that's huge. And you have to think about that going through the season.
Yeah.
Mind you, he played, and I think, they look at it like 15 interceptions in 11 games. But you have to think, when Dak got back, they were the best offense in the league with Dak. It's hilarious. Because when you look at his ratio, his interception to touchdown ratio, prior to that, is top 7 in the league history-wise.
Yeah.
So it boggles my mind that people hate the Cowboys that much that they have to bring up stuff that's not true. And that's the thing when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is going to show.
It's very simple. It's not even like people are like telling the truth and not lying or whatever. It's you got to use your feet. And if you're not you're not a great pocket quarterback. He's not a great pocket quarterback. He never has been.
He's
gotten better, but he's not great at all.
No.
He needs to use his legs to win.
No,
he does. I mean, I've watched him play for 5 years now. Every time this guy uses his legs, the defenses are unbalanced, and he has a lot more success.
Yeah.
Every single time. I don't know what happened. I get it. You broke a thumb. I mean, that's going to affect the way you throw the football to begin with. But you have to get out of the pocket. He's like one of the few quarterbacks I've ever said, like, for them to do and be on that side to do it. I mean, I've seen him put the ball where he needs to be from on the run and all that. He needs to be able to run with the football and be able to get those first downs here and there, or else the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a lot of drives just stalling out, and everyone's going to be wondering why. It's that simple. You got to use your legs to extend drives and run the ball well.
People also hated on the move of moving Kellen Moore. And I think that was
I thought he was
the offensive coordinator. And
that's what I mean. Like, I didn't care.
No, I didn't care either, because you know what? There's a lot of times where Kellen Moore, his offense just sputtered, and he never made any adjustments. So that was that. Like, I think Mike McCarthy calling plays this year, I think, is going to help Dak Prescott a lot more.
Yeah, the more I watch Hard Knocks, the more I'm not seeing that being Mike McCarthy. That was the reason why Green Bay was good at any point. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Hard Knocks, you know that his play calling wasn't the difference here. You can't blame it on play calling. This kid just needs to make the right decision. When you have a passing down on a 3rd down and 5 and there's room in front of you, you have to go and run to pick it up sometimes. It's going to happen, or you need to just be in good, For me, it's always been the same for Dak Prescott for me, man. You use your legs and you keep these defenses unbalanced, you're going to have great success in the NFL. You sit in the pocket all day, I don't get. That's what I want. I want you to be sitting in the pocket.
There's not many quarterbacks that you want to sit in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
like Tom Brady was one of the guys, like you wanted him to stay in the pocket. But, nowadays there's not really that many.
Well, there needs to just be
quarterbacks.
upgrades. I'll be honest with you. Like you said, he's been getting better little by little. It needs to just continue to upgrade from the pocket and just be able to go through your progressions.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, just from what I've watched from Dak Prescott over the years, if he runs with the football and makes himself a threat at that standpoint, he has more success.
Absolutely.
Around the hobby.
First, the Wander Franco situation is huge.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense to me.
Wow.
Like, why is this card going for more money now?
Well, it's not even that. Obviously he's taken a big, dip, but it's crazy though.
Still going for a lot of money.
He may not even play another game.
I know. He might not even be allowed back.
Yeah.
Into the league at all.
Zeke and Dalvin Cook, their numbers are up. Zeke, his 2016 Prism Auto is up 100%. Dalvin Cook, his 2016 Select, up 180%. So that is, and their acquisition did not change their team's odds. So that's funny how that works. Johnny Manziel, I said this last week. I didn't have the numbers to back it. I have the numbers now. There's been 377 new sales from July 1st to August 6th of Johnny Manziel. But from August 7th to August 12th, there was 207. And his National Treasures RPA to 99 PSA 10 sold for $800. Per slab stocks, you could have gotten both his 2014 National Treasures RPA to 25 BGS 95 for $257 on November 21st, 2022, and his 2014 National Treasures 1-of-1 Nike logo RPA PSA 7 for $372. You could have got that less than that $800. That's how much his stock has gone up. It's crazy. And the other crazy thing, the Ja Morant, his rookie Chronicles is up again, which is crazy because he's had such a turbulent, season this year, and all of his stuff has been down. But the craziest thing about this card is that Young Dolph, the rapper that was killed, is in the background. And now that the whole Michael Orr thing happened, his parents are sitting behind Ja in that picture. So that card, which could sell for probably $5, is now selling for $200. That's how crazy the hobby works. It's like the Menendez brothers card. It's funny. Like, it's a quick shoot up, and then we'll go back down. So that's I wouldn't buy in. But that will do it. Got Kevin back for the good episode. Hopefully he'll show his face during the season.
100%.
But that will do it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Be breezy. Be breezy.
And it is all over! You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on sports radio.